To begin our discussion of fractions, we will first look at some vocabulary. Prime number. A prime number is a number greater than 1 that is only divisible by 1 and itself. Prime factorization. The prime factorization of a number is the product of all of the prime numbers that equals the number. Write the prime factorization of the numbers 36 and 24. We will do this by drawing a factor tree. To draw a factor tree for 36, we will ask ourselves what two numbers multiply to give me 36. 6 times 6. Then we can break up the number 6 as factors 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are prime factors because they are only divisible by 1 and itself, so we will circle the 2 and the 3, indicating that we are finished with those limbs. We can break the 6 up into factors 2 and 3, and we circle those as primes. So the prime factorization of 36 is equal to 2 times 2 times 3 times 3, the product of all of the prime numbers. We will do the same thing for the number 24. What two numbers multiply to give us 24? We can do this many ways, but let's do 3 and 8. 3 is a prime number, so we can circle it. We can break 8 into 2 times 4. 2 is a prime number, so we'll circle that, and break the 4 into 2 times 2. And 2 is prime, so we circle the 2's, and we circle the 3. So the prime factorization of 24 is equal to 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of two numbers is the greatest number that divides both numbers evenly. One way to determine the greatest common factor is to use the prime factorization. The product of all of the prime factors that are common in both numbers will give the greatest common factor. We will determine the greatest common factor of the numbers 36 and 24. Recall that the prime factorization of 36 was equal to 2 times 2 times 3 times 3, and the prime factorization of 24 was equal to 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Recall that the greatest common factor of two numbers is the greatest number that divides both numbers evenly. The product of all the prime factors that are common in both numbers will give the GCF. So let's circle the numbers that they have in common in their prime factorization. So the greatest common factor of 36 and 24 is equal to 2 times 2 times 3. 2 times 2 is 4, times 3 is 12. So the greatest common factor of 36 and 24 is 12. Least common multiple. The least common multiple, or LCM, of two numbers is the smallest number that both numbers divide evenly. One way to determine the LCM of two numbers is to multiply the two numbers together and divide that number by the GCF. Determine the least common multiple of the numbers 36 and 24. The LCM of 36 and 24 is equal to 36 times 24 divided by the GCF of 36 and 24. We determine the GCF of 36 and 24 to be the number 12. So we will multiply 36 times 24 and we get 864. Then we will divide by 12 and we get the number 72. So the least common multiple of 36 and 24 is 72. It is the smallest number that both 36 and 24 will divide evenly. Equivalent fractions. Changing the numerator and denominator of a fraction without changing the value forms an equivalent fraction. There are two ways to accomplish this, by expanding the fraction or by reducing it. You can multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number and produce an equivalent fraction, and you can divide the numerator and denominator by the same number and produce an equivalent fraction. We can see this in symbols. This is the fraction a over b. By dividing the numerator and denominator by the same number, we are getting an equivalent fraction. For the fraction a over b, we can multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number and get an equivalent fraction. When we simplify fractions, we are going to be dividing out common factors in the numerator and denominator. One way you can do this is by looking at the prime factorization of the number in the numerator and the denominator. So let's find the prime factorization of the number 8 using a factor tree. 4 times 2 is equal to 8. The 2 is prime, so we can circle it. And we can multiply 2 times 2 to get 4. So we can write the number 8 as the product of 2 times 2 times 2. 28. 2 times 14 is equal to 28. And 2 times 7 is equal to 14. 2 is a prime number, and so is 7. So 28 can be written as 2 times 2 times 7. The fraction 8 over 28, we can rewrite that using the prime factorization for 8 in the numerator and the prime factorization for 28 in the denominator. We can simplify this by dividing out common factors in the numerator and denominator. We have a 2 in the numerator and denominator. We can divide out a 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. We can divide out a 2 here, and then we are left with 1 times 2, which is 2, and 1 times 7, which is 7. 8 over 28 can be simplified as 2 over 7, or 2/7. We can also simplify this by dividing the numerator and denominator by the same number. Remember, we can write the number 8 in prime factorization as 2 times 2 times 2, and we can write the number 28 as 2 times 2 times 7. The greatest common factor of 8 and 28 is equal to the numbers that they have in common multiplied together in their prime factorization. So the greatest common factor is equal to 4. So we can simplify 8 over 28 by dividing the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 28 divided by 4 is 7. Notice that we got the same answer both ways. Simplify 24/36. The first way we will do this is by looking at the prime factorizations of the numerator and denominator. In a previous problem, we learned that the prime factorization of 24 can be written as 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. And the prime factorization of 36 is 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. Now we will divide out common factors in the numerator and the denominator. The numerator has a 2. We divide by 2 in the numerator and the denominator. The numerator and denominator have another 2, so we will divide the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2. We also have a 3 in the numerator and denominator, so we will divide the numerator by 3 and the denominator by 3. Therefore, our answer is 2/3. Another way we could have simplified 24 divided by 36 is to divide the numerator and denominator by the same number. We can see that 24 and 36 have a greatest common factor of 12. We learned that from a previous problem, so we could divide the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor, which is 12. 24 divided by 12 is equal to 2, and 36 divided by 12 is equal to 3. Notice we get the same answer. We can also simplify this problem in another way. Let's say we don't know what the greatest common factor is, but we do know a factor that divides both 24 and 36. I can see that they are both even numbers, and I know that even numbers are divisible by 2. So I can start by dividing the numerator and the denominator by 2. 24 divided by 2 is equal to 12, and 36 divided by 2 is equal to 18. Again, we have even numbers, so we can divide both the numerator and denominator of 12 and 18 by the number 2. So we'll divide the numerator and the denominator by 2. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 18 divided by 2 is 9. 6 and 9 have a common factor of 3, so we can divide the numerator by 3 and the denominator by 3. And we finally get 6 divided by 3, which is 2, and 9 divided by 3, which is 3. The first two methods, we needed to know the prime factorization, or the greatest common factor. In our last method, we just took it step by step and continued to divide the numerator and denominator by the same number until we got to a fraction that the numerator and the denominator have no factor other than 1 that divides both of them. Rewrite 5/7 by multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by 3. Recall, we can make an equivalent fraction by multiplying the numerator and denominator by the same number. The number 5/7 is the same thing as if I multiplied the numerator and denominator by 3. Our new numerator is 15, and our new denominator is 21. So the fraction 5/7 is the same fraction as 15/21. Sometimes this is important. In order to add fractions, we will need to be sometimes multiplying numerators and denominators by the same number in order to get common denominators. You will see this in sections to come. Rewrite 5/7 by multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by 4. The fraction 5/7 is equal to this fraction having its numerator multiplied by 4 and the denominator multiplied by 4. So our new fraction is 20 over 28. So 5/7 is the same thing as 20 over 28, or 20/28. So 5/7 is equal to 20 over 28, and it is also equal to 15 over 21. Let's review the parts of a division statement. The parts of a division statement are the dividend divided by the divisor is equal to the quotient. We can also write this in fraction form. The dividend is the numerator, the divisor is the denominator, and the answer is the quotient. We can write this as long division by putting the dividend under the little division house, the divisor goes outside, and the quotient is on top of the division house. Keep this in mind as we do some problems. Rewrite the division problem 6 divided by 5 as a fraction. 6 divided by 5. That fraction says the same thing as 6 divided by 5. The fraction bar is read divided by. Rewrite the fraction 6/5 as you would perform long division. Remember, 6/5 is the same thing as 6 divided by 5. To write this in long division form, we put the 6 inside the house and the 5 outside. This reads 6 divided by 5. Rewrite 21/8 as a mixed number. In order to write a mixed number, we are going to first put it in long division form. We will put 21 inside the division sign and the 8 on the outside of the division sign. This problem reads 21 divided by 8. The top number always goes inside. Now we will perform long division. 8 divided into 21 goes in twice. 2 times 8 is 16. And now we will subtract. 11 minus 6 is equal to 5. Now, to write as a mixed number, the remainder that we have after we've performed long division is the numerator of the fraction part of the mixed number, and what we divided by is the denominator. Notice that the denominator here is the same denominator as our problem. So 21/8 is the same thing as 2 and 5/8. Rewrite 52/8 as a mixed number. We will put the numerator inside of the division symbol and the denominator outside. This reads 52 divided by 8, just as the fraction reads 52 divided by 8. We ask ourselves, what times 8 gets close to 52 without going over? The answer is 6. 6 times 8 is 48. Then we subtract. 12 minus 8 is equal to 4. The number that we get as our remainder must be less than the number we divided by. The remainder of our long division becomes the numerator of our fraction, and the denominator will remain the same as the denominator from our problem. The number we divided by remains our denominator. This answer is not finished. Notice we have 4/8. 4/8 can be simplified. 4 divides both 8 and 4, so let's divide the numerator and denominator by 4 to change this to an equivalent fraction. So our answer is 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So 4/8 is the same thing as 1/2. So 52/8 is equivalent to 6 and 1/2. We could have done this problem another way. Notice 52/8. 52/8 can be simplified. We could have simplified this problem before we did the division. We can divide both the numerator and denominator of 52/8 by the number 4. 52 divided by 4 is equal to 13. 8 divided by 4 is equal to 2. Now we will do long division using this fraction. We'll put the numerator inside of the division symbol and the denominator outside. What times 2 gives me something close to 13 without going over? 2 times 6 is equal to 12. We subtract and we get a remainder of 1. The remainder is then the numerator, and what we divided by is the denominator. Notice 13 over 2 is equal to 6 and 1/2. And we get the same answer doing it the other way. How to rewrite an integer as a fraction. For any integer a is equal to a over 1. Write the following numbers as fractions. 0 can be written as 0 over 1. 3 can be written as 3 over 1. Negative 23 can be written as negative 23 over 1. And 5 can be written as 5 over 1. How to change a mixed number to an improper fraction. A mixed number is in this form: a whole number plus a fraction. What we do is we multiply the whole number times the denominator and add the numerator to get the numerator of the improper fraction, and the denominator will stay the same. When dealing with a negative mixed number, know that the negative makes the entire mixed number negative. So we will determine the improper fraction of the mixed number, and then that number will be negative. Rewrite 3 3/4 as an improper fraction. 3 3/4 is equal to the whole number times the denominator plus the numerator divided by the denominator. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. So 3 3/4 is equal to 15/4. Rewrite 2 3/7 as an improper fraction. 2 3/7 is equal to the whole number times the denominator plus the numerator divided by the denominator. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 3. 14 plus 3 is 17. So 2 3/7 is equal to 17/7. Rewrite negative 4 2/3 as an improper fraction. We will write negative 4 2/3 like this. We will work at making this an improper fraction, and once we get that answer, we will make that answer negative. Multiply the whole number times the denominator plus the numerator divided by the denominator. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. So our answer is negative 14/3. The mean, which is also called the average. The mean is the sum of a set of data values divided by the number of data values in the set. In order to find the mean, you will first add the numbers in the list, then count how many numbers are in the list. Divide the sum by the count. Find the mean of 85, 76, 55, and 98. First, we will add these numbers together. You can do this on a calculator, or you can write them vertically, lining up place value, and add them together. The sum of these numbers is 314. There are 4 numbers, so we will divide the sum by 4. 314 divided by 4. And we will set this up as long division. We will look at the number 31 and say 4 divides 31 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. We subtract and get 3. We will bring down the 4, and then we will divide 4 into 34. Goes in 8 times. 8 times 4 is 32. We subtract and get the number 2. The remainder is our numerator, and the denominator is the number that we divided by. Notice we get the fraction 2/4. We can simplify this fraction by dividing the numerator and denominator by 2. So our final answer for the mean is 78 1/2. Median. The median is the middle number in a set of data values. The first thing we must do is place the numbers in order from smallest to largest. Then find the middle number. If 2 numbers are in the middle, compute the mean of those numbers. Find the median of the numbers 3, -9, 2, -5, 6, and -6. Let's review where these numbers are located on a number line so that we understand if it's a larger negative number, it is really the smallest number. For us to order these numbers, we will see that -9 is our smallest number, then -6, then -5, then 2, then 3, and finally 6. Notice as I was writing down the list, I was crossing off from the original list in order to keep track. Notice we have 2 middle numbers. We will add those numbers together. -5 plus 2. -5 plus 2, the signs are different, so we take the difference of their absolute values and keep the sign of the dominant number. So our answer is -3. Then we will divide -3 by 2. We can write -3 divided by 2 as a fraction. -3 divided by 2. So the median is -3/2, or we could write this as a mixed number. 2 goes into 3 once, with 1 left over, So 2/3 is the same thing as 1 1/2. So we could also write negative 3/2 as negative 1 1/2. Order the following fractions from least to greatest. In order to order fractions, we must first have a common denominator. Let's look at our denominators, 4 and 8. What is the least common multiple of 4 and 8? What is the smallest number that 4 and 8 divide? We can list the multiples of 4. Multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, etc. And multiples of 8 are 8, 16, 24, etc. The first number that they both have in common is the number 8. So let's write each of these fractions with a denominator of 8. We would like to write the fraction 1/4 with a denominator of 8. So we ask ourselves, what number can we multiply by 4 in order to get 8? That number is 2. So if we multiply the denominator by 2, we will multiply the numerator by 2 in order to keep an equivalent fraction. So the number 2/8 is the same thing as 1/4. We will do the same thing for the number 3/4. We would like to write this fraction with a denominator of 8. So what did we multiply the original denominator by in order to get 8? 4 times what equals 8? 2. So we will multiply the numerator by 2 as well. 3 times 2 is 6. So 6/8 is the same thing as 3/4. 5/8 is already written with a denominator of 8. Now we will write the number 2/4 with a denominator of 8. What did we multiply 4 by to get 8? 2 again. So we will multiply the numerator as well by 2, and we get 4. 4/8 is the same number as 2/4. And 1/8 is already a fraction with a denominator of 8. So our fractions that we have are 2/8, 6/8, 5/8, 4/8, and 1/8. Now we will put them in order from least to greatest. Our smallest fraction will have the smallest numerator. Our smallest fraction is 1/8. The next fraction is 2/8. The next fraction will be 4/8. The next fraction will be 5/8. And finally, 6/8. We have now ordered these fractions from least to greatest. Determine the median of the following numbers. The first thing we must do is order these from least to greatest. In order to put fractions in order from least to greatest, they must first have a common denominator. The least common multiple of 3, 4, and 12 is what we need to determine. What is the smallest number that 3, 4, and 12 all divide? The smallest number they all divide is the number 12. So we want to write each of these fractions with a denominator of 12. We will start with 1/3. We need to write this with a denominator of 12. What do we multiply 3 by in order to get 12? We multiply by 4. So if we multiply the denominator by 4, we must multiply the numerator by 4. So 4/12 is the same thing as 1/3. Next we will do 3/4. We need to write 3/4 with a denominator of 12. What number times 4 is equal to 12? 3. So we will multiply the denominator by 3 and the numerator by 3. And our new numerator is 9. So 9/12 is the same fraction as 3/4. 4/12 already has a denominator of 12. Next, we will work with 2/4. We need to write 2/4 with a denominator of 12. We multiply by 3 in the numerator and the denominator, and our new numerator will be 6. So 6/12 is equal to 2/4. And finally, we need to change 1/4 to have a denominator of 12. What did we multiply 4 by to get 12? We multiplied by 3, so we need to multiply the numerator by 3 as well. So our new numerator is 3. So 3/12 is the same thing as 1/4. Now we will put these numbers in order from least to greatest. The smallest fraction will have the smallest numerator because all of the denominators are the same. We will start with 3/12 as our smallest fraction. Then we have 4/12, and we also have another 4/12. And then 6/12, and finally 9/12. To find the median, we need to find the middle number, and the middle number is 4/12. 4/12 can also be written by dividing the numerator and denominator by the greatest common factor, which is 4, and we get 1/3. So our median is 1/3. Mode. The number that occurs the most often in a set of data values. First, place the number in order from smallest to largest. Find the number that occurs the most. Note, there may be more than one mode or even no mode at all. Determine the mode of the following numbers. First, we will put the numbers in order. We have done this in the previous problem when we found the median. We ordered the numbers as follows. The number that appears the most is 4/12. So the mode of the following numbers is 4/12. It appears the most. Now we can write 4/12 in simplified form by dividing the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So the mode of the following numbers is 1/3. Rules for fractions with zeros. If 0 is divided by any number except 0, the answer is 0. So if 0 is in the numerator and you have a non-zero number in the denominator, your answer will be 0. If any number is divided by 0, the answer is undefined. If 0 is in the denominator, your answer will be undefined. Simplify 0 divided by 12. 0 divided by 12 is equal to 0. Simplify 20 divided by 0. 20 divided by 0 is undefined because the denominator is 0.